Hey guys, so today what we're going to do is we're going to put everything that we've learned over the last few days together and talk about how you decide what you're supposed to do based on the information that you're given in order to factor. So, the first question that you always want to ask yourself is, do I have a GCF? So that's the very first question. Look for a greatest common factor. If you have a greatest common factor, you need to take that out. If you don't, then you move on to looking to see whether or not you have a difference of squares, which, by the way, notice that that means this is two terms here, okay? You'll have two terms, so let's write that out here. Two terms with a minus, okay? So, if you have two terms that are perfect squares with a minus, then you'll factor it using a difference of squares. And we've talked about this, but like, what do you square to get x squared? You square x. What do you square to get 64? You square 8. And we put one of the parentheses with a plus and one of the parentheses with a minus, and that's how we would factor that, okay? If we wanted another example, in this case, again, remember the first thing to ask yourself is there a GCF? Well, in this case, there is a GCF. That GCF is 2 and n. So if we take out 2n, that'll leave us with 9m squared minus n squared. Because if we multiply this back out, we get back 2 times 9 is 18, n times m squared gives us the m squared n, and then minus 2n cubed. So we took out that greatest common factor, and then we can look at this, and we notice that this is a difference of squares. You square 3 to get 9, you square m to get m squared, and you square n to get n squared. So we can factor that and say that that would be 3m plus n times 3m minus n. And this would be our final answer for factoring. Okay? So ask if there's a GCF. Look and see if there's two terms and there's a minus in the middle. If there is, then check to see if you have a difference of squares. Okay? Now, if it's more than two terms, okay? So let's say that it is a trinomial. And of course, we know that a trinomial has three terms. Okay, so now we're going on and we're looking if we have three terms. So a trinomial. Now, in this case, we're just saying that our coefficient here is 1. And in this case over here, it's something other than 1. It could be a positive number, it could be a negative number. But we're going to look at these two cases. And whichever case that you have, you're going to use the same method. And so we're just going to mark this out right here, and we're going to put box method. Okay? So we're going to use the box method. Remember, that may require you to do the big X, where you have to find the factors of A times C that will give you the B that's in the middle. Okay? We multiply these two to come up with the middle. You also multiply these two to come up with the middle, the A and the C, but it just so happens that 1 times whatever C is will be whatever that C is. So you really don't have to worry about it as much there. All right? Now, so as an example, let's look at this first one here. We notice that our coefficient here is 1, okay? We got a coefficient of 1, and I'm going to come out to the side here and work this. So if we draw our box, I'll draw an arrow out here. If we draw our box, remember the top left box gets your first term, which is x squared. The bottom right gets your bottom right of the box gets your last term, which is the negative 42. And then we need to do that x to determine. So if we do the big X here, we need to multiply to get negative 42 and then add to get a negative 1. So we're coming up with two factors to multiply to negative 42 and combine to give us that negative 1. And that would be a negative 7 and a positive 6. Now remember, you can put those inside here wherever. So I'm going to put negative 7x and a positive 6x. Then you ask yourself, what is the greatest common factor across the top? Well, that's x. And then you make the box work. X times what is x squared? Well, that's x. X times what is negative 7x? That's negative 7. X times what is 6x? 6, and then here's your check. Is 6 times negative 7 equal to negative 42? And it is. So then what's outside the box is our answer. Let me get a different color here. So what's outside the box is our answer. So our answer would be x plus 6 times x minus 7. Okay? If we look at this one down here, we're going to ask that first question. Is there a greatest common factor? Well, yes, there is. 2 goes into 2, 20, and 50. So I can take a 2 out. When I do that, that leaves me with w squared plus 10w plus 25. And then what you're factoring is inside this parentheses. So we're just looking at that to factor it, okay? We're just looking at that part. So if we just look at that part and we put it in a box out here, remember this w squared goes in the top left box. The 25 is going to go in the bottom right box. And then I'm figuring out what I need to multiply to give me 25 and add to give me that 10. So once we do that, we'll see that that's 5 and 5. 5 times 5 is 25, and 5 plus 5 is 10. Again, it doesn't matter where we put those over here, and in this case, they're both the same number anyway. Across the top, what is my greatest common factor? It's w. W times what is w squared? Well, that's w. W times what is 5w? That's 5. W times what is 5w? That's 5. And then 5 times 5 gives me the 25, so what I've done worked. Now, these boxes give me what I'm factored to, what's on the outside of the box. But don't forget that we had this little 2 right here. Don't forget this 2. You've still got to bring it down. So since we took that out, we keep it in our answer. 2 times w plus 5 times w plus 5 is our answer. You might also see that written as 2 times w plus 5 squared. So it's possible, especially if you're taking an end of course test or something, that they would write it like this. Okay? All right, in the next video, we'll finish up this sheet.